In the last week and a half or so, I've been looking up information, trying to refresh my memory on a lot of these mixing concepts that I learned in school. And in the process, I think I've come to a realization that has brought a lot of clarity to me about what the mixing process is and what a lot of these mixing tools do. So I want to share that with y'all today. In my last video on mixing inside the MPC Live standalone, I went over some organizational things, documented that process of me trying to figure out that process, mixing in the MPC Live standalone. So if you want to check out that video, go ahead, check out the link. It'll probably be right here or in the description. You'll have a little info card right here. Today I wanted to go over a few different mixing tools, some of the most basic mixing tools. And number one would be just level adjustment, 2 would be panning, 3 would be some EQ or filters, and then compression. So what I wanted to share with you guys in my process of refreshing my memory on how some of these tools work, I came to this realization: all of these mixing tools can be looked at as one thing, and that is that all of these tools are volume controls. Whether it be leveling, panning, EQ, or compression, all these basic mixing tools are all volume controls. Maybe some of y'all already know this, maybe some of y'all disagree with this, but I'm going to clarify as I go through, so go ahead and stick around with me. Once again, I moved all my equipment around because I did some cleaning in this room. This is probably the cleanest you'll ever see it. I ended up with this little setup right here, which is not even ideal, especially for mixing. I'm going to go through some of the concepts. The first thing I'm going to be starting with is adjust the levels of all the individual pads. This really doesn't need so much explanation because obviously when you adjust levels, that's a volume control. That should be the most obvious one. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right, so this is my starting point from where I left off. I put everything into groups, as you can see. I have a sample group. That's really just that's my sample chop off of vinyl. Then I have a drum group. It's got my kick, snare, hi-hat, whatever it crashes. And I have a bass group. And then I think I have a Vox group. Okay, so start out with my levels. I'm going to start out with my drums. And I'm going to go into my program edit and just look at my... Actually, let's go in to pad mixer. So it seems like, so your pad mixer is actually different from your program edit. See, because I can go in here, and as you see, for example, my kick, from when I created my beat, I already did some, leveling. I turned down the level of my kick so it wouldn't be too loud within the context of my beat when I was creating it. So as you can see, this level is not the same as if I go into pad mixer. Right here I have a 0 dB setting on my volume for pad A01 where my kick lies. So starting out with my drums. I'm gonna raise up. Feel like this cymbal's a bit loud. Alright, so moving on. So now looking at my samples, just gonna do some basic levels. I'm gonna go back to my kick because I feel that's a little bit loud still. Okay, so I went through and I did some leveling on all of my tracks or my pads, and so from here I'll move on and do some panning. I can begin to talk about what I meant when I said that all these mixing tools are basically just volume controls. And so when I pan something to the left, the volume on the right speaker or right headphone on the right side is essentially just turning down, and then vice versa. Starting here with some panning, my sample group, all my samples, my vinyl samples, my chops, I'm going to leave them center for now. And I'm going to move on to my drum group. Go into pad mixer, kick and snare, kind of rule of thumb, stay dead center. Hi-hat, you can move in any direction, I guess. This is just according to preference. Some people, I know what I've learned is will want to mix in the drummer's perspective, and others by an audience perspective. I think I usually do. I go for the audience perspective, and I'll pan right with the hi-hats. So I don't actually have any hi-hats playing in this section of my music. I'm gonna go ahead and skip that. I'm gonna move on to the ride sound. So if you notice, you have this little section highlighted at the top. I guess the last 4 pads. If you press your Q-Link button, it will scroll through different sections of the pads. So you can control them with the Q-Links. So now I want to click on panning, and I'm going to adjust, this is pad 8, and I can do that by turning the last Q-Link knob. So I'm going to pan this to the left a bit. This is my ride sound. And I want to do that also again with my crash. Pan it to the left a bit. I guess I have, what else do I have? Bass. My bass is going to stay dead center as well. And now I have some vocal samples in there. Might want to move them over to the left a bit as well. I think that's just my instinct to move them to the left. So you notice I'm just using my big knob, which you can choose to do as well just by clicking corresponding pad. I believe you can do it from here as well. Now the next thing is going to be EQs. I'm probably just going to throw some filters in there before I do some compression. And so now to expand on EQ and how it's just really just a volume knob as well, volume control. EQ is a frequency specific volume control. As opposed to when I adjust the levels on my tracks, I am turning up or turning down the whole full range of frequency. Here's another rule of thumb that I learned, and I learned in school, and then I hear about it and videos and mixing stuff and information that I read online. And it's pretty much like any one of your tracks or any element of your mix that doesn't require any low frequency information to go ahead and put a high pass filter on. And so my samples right here are just chopped. So rather than going into the pad mixer, I'm gonna go into the channel mixer and just affect the whole group as a whole. And this is something that I was actually already messing around with. And so I put a high pass filter on my sample because there is a lot of low frequency there that kind of just muddies up the sound of the mix. And so I'm just gonna bypass it, and maybe you'll be able to hear the difference. Okay, so this is it bypassed now. Now I turn it on. It's very subtle, but I do hear quite a bit of clarity on that low end when it comes to this sample, when it just kind of makes more space and room for the instruments like the bass and the kick drum to fit. So I'm gonna go in and just take a look at this. As you can see, I set the frequency knob to 233. Oops, I gotta do that. And so that just pretty much means with the high pass filter that all frequencies above 233 will pass through, and then everything below will be attenuated or cut off. Actually, it's kind of in a filter, that's the cutoff point. So I went in and did this for all of my drums other than my kick. I put a high pass filter on my clap, on my hi-hat, on my ride and cymbals, my crash. And then I believe I did, or I need to still do it for my vocals. So I can go in, I'm gonna go in to this vocal chop, and I'm gonna go down, scroll down to high pass filter, wherever you're at. Click that one, go in, and it's set to 1500. And I'm gonna turn that down to say about 230. Now this is just a subtle tool, but it's cutting out a lot of frequencies that I don't need in there. So I'm just gonna go through and finish that up and move on to some compression. I heard someone say in a video that compression, what it is an automatic volume control. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and just into one of these and pull up a compressor just so I can go over the concept of it. Which one I want to use? Let's go with the vintage. Okay. Turn this light out. Okay. All right. So this is my compressor. Okay. Okay, so looking at my compressor is my automatic volume knob. And so in order, let's solo this out. So my compressor is an automatic volume knob. So in order for the compressor to do its job, I'm gonna have to turn down the threshold. So the idea is that when the volume goes past the threshold, that's when your compression begins, and it'll start to attenuate or turn down the volume automatically once it hits that point. So I'm going to want to turn my threshold down, and I'm not going to go over all of these things because honestly I'm not the authority on compressors or even mixing. What I do understand is that your ratio, if it's set to 1:1, it's not actually going to do any kind of compression. So if I turn that up to 2, then what it's going to do is it's going to compress 1 decibel for every 2 decibels, I believe, that goes over the threshold. So it'll go down, push it down 1. So the concept of what compression is doing is, what you're doing is you're turning down the volume, or you're having compressor turn the high parts of your audio down, and then bring the lower parts up by turning your output back up. So this is your output, or on some compressors it might say gain, and it's also known as makeup gain, because you're making up for the volume that's being attenuated. I'm going to turn my tag down. I'm not going to even explain what this is all about. So hopefully that didn't confuse anyone, because I think it would confuse me prior to actually going to school for this stuff, because I needed that for me. I wanted to share that briefly with you, as briefly as I could, as clearly as I could. Hopefully I'm not steering anyone in the wrong direction. Don't claim to be an expert, but this is my understanding of these mixing tools, and I think that really simplifies things if you want to look at them that way, as all of these tools being volume controls. A lot of these tools have more to them than just that. A lot of other things to learn. So this is just the basics, going through the process. I think I'll have a few more of these videos as I'm learning the process. I'll document it again and again, and again and again. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see y'all next time. Or actually, you'll see me, but I'll see you in the comments. All right, peace.